Hi, this is the Board of Finance meeting for December 18th, 2025. We're starting at 7:07. Um, are there any motions for seating the alternate for Bruce Aller, who's missing tonight?
I'll make a motion to seat Eric DeCastro, Bruce.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Hey, Jason seconds. Any discussion? I mean, I guess we don't do that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you.
Just kind of, we'll circle back in a minute after the approval of minutes and present to speak and get to know you a little bit better as a newcomer. Okay, approval of minutes for November 20th. Y'all had a chance to look those over. Any changes, corrections, additions you want to recommend? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I move to accept the minutes from November 20th, 2025.
Second,
I'll second.
thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention, Eric DeCastros. Okay. And we will move rapidly to present to speak. Anyone here would like to speak in the room? Not yet. Oh, would you like to, please? Please do identify yourself for the record.
Peter Latinchich, 97 Grass Road. And I wanted to address possibly reserve time for your new business agenda item. Which reads transfer request for funds for a future school building committee. I was a bit perplexed when I saw this because I did not see this in your previous agenda or minutes. I did not see it in the Board of Selectmen's. They don't have minutes for their last meeting, but I looked at their agenda and I was the discussion that night. I didn't see that either. It's not clear from your agenda who's making this request because we don't have a building committee at this time. So since I have all of these questions, which are obviously unanswered, I can reserve time for those
I
questions.
think I could clarify it right now. I mean, well, first of all, it wouldn't be on a previous agenda because it's not old business, it's new business, but. Second, the requester, and that's my plug because I didn't put it on there. Because I was kind of racing to get the agenda over. It's the first selectman. So, and I think he'll either be here on Zoom or in person. I imagine he's online. So he'll be speaking on it when the agenda item comes up.
I see.
Thank you. Is there anyone online who would like to speak? Oh, Ralph?
Good evening, Ralph Tillis, Village Hill Road. Point number one, I'm attending this meeting as a resident. I want to make that clear. And all I'm asking is to possibly reserve time under new business item 1.
Okay, we don't normally do that, Ralph. We have present to speak beforehand and after. I prefer if we did that. Can you make your comments now? Because we're generally we're not opening to the public when we're discussing agenda items. So please say what you would like to say now if you can.
I don't know what to say because I don't understand item 1 yet.
Speak again.
Okay, I'd like to hear from Mike. He's also got his hand up. He may be raising his hand to say something pertinent about this issue. Mike?
Yes. Hi. Mike McCoo, First Selectman. On the On an unrelated topic for present to speak, I wanted to just let the board know and anyone in the public who's attending or watching, if you didn't catch the news yesterday, Willington and Ashford were fortunate to be invited by the governor's office yesterday for the announcement that we have received a grant from the Brownfield cleanup project. There's a series of different funds for cleaning up brownfields, and the particular one that Willington Ashford was awarded was $200,000 towards planning for what to do next with the Cadle Rock property, which we've been talking about for decades now. And most of the thanks for that goes to obviously legislative support in the governor's office, but also to the Ashford First Selectman's office for filling out the grant and putting our portion into the grant on our behalf. So that is hopefully something further down the road that's going to be a positive effect for us figuring out what to do with the Cadle Rock property. And then on the topic of the transfer, I will I'm presenting that at the time it comes up in the agenda. And as you pointed out, Madam Chairwoman, this is new business, and I did send the request in to ask that it be put on the agenda. And I'll be glad to talk more about that when it comes up on the agenda. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there others who are present to speak online? Okay, seeing none. I'd like to go to the old business on the annual budget calendars and the advisory letter, but first the calendars, those have been updated and they're in your packet. What you will notice, just to explain it to you before you fish around and try to see it yourself, and I know some of you have probably seen it online and others haven't. Seen it in the packet that I send electronically to you. We thought, we originally thought the last meeting that we should move up the calendar of week, because we were running into a real last minute shuffle last year for the current budget that sort of was real high pressure, and we didn't think that made a lot of sense. In addition to that, it's evolved since the last budget. The Chronicle has a 5-day publishing week now. They've knocked another day out of their publication, so they don't publish on until Tuesday. They don't publish Sunday or Monday. So that means, it kind of wreaks havoc with statutory guidelines for the space between a hearing and going to vote or going to referendum. So it was gonna squeezes it too much, especially with our 4-day work week at the town offices. If we put something through even Friday morning, which the finance office could do, it still won't be published as a legal notice until Tuesday's paper. So we needed to move it back anyway, but the original idea was more to leave a little more time for debate. And not be doing a debate and appropriations on the same night if we can avoid that. There's still a fallback date if we had to do some kind of a special meeting thing. But that is, again, I don't know that the publication date for the following hearing would be, I don't know that we'd be able to make the deadline that fast, but it could be considered if we really needed to. So wanted to point that out. In addition to that, Don and I discussed making clear on the budget calendar the deadlines for submission for the budgeters, because it's always kind of fuzzy. And even if you say a week before or 10 days before or whatever, it comes whenever. And we really need those to be more timely, because they're pretty in depth and want people to be prepared and maybe have more, more time to think about questions they would have for the presenters. And I think it'll kind of save everyone some time doing it that way. Bill?
So, with all this nice detail you have here, how's it being delivered to the various committees?
It goes out with the budget packet from the business office,
Okay,
so along with the letter.
great.
So and that'll go out, I think Donna thinks tomorrow. They won't really get the budget. They'll get the letter, but I don't know that they'll get all, and they'll get the calendars if we approve them. I don't know that they'll get, the packet stuff yet. Because that takes some doing by finance to put that together. That includes the actual so far this year and the full budget, report from, or spreadsheet from the previous full year. And then a projection of what the bottom line amount will be for each department, yeah.
So to get this calendar this year,
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's 3 calendars, this one, the one that has the monthly Board of Finance meetings and the one that has the combined budget meetings for the Board of Finance and our regular meetings, so you guys can see easily. When you're filling in your own calendar where what they all are. But the basic is, to kick off to the budget season would be, first presentations would be Thursday, January 29th. And, they would go weekly after that until we get to, until we finish up with those and get into the budget discussions and, the revenue presentation. We do discussions those not that night. Then CIP comes in kind of late because they have to wait till everybody else's stuff is done before they can present and before the selectmen budgets, until after the selectmen budget's been submitted. So that, that's where that goes. And then, the budget hearing is April 7th. The annual town meeting is 2 weeks after that. That's a Tuesday. April 21st, and then the referendum vote is by statute May 5th. And that is a day before the legislature concludes its session, so we may not have full information, which is covered in the budget letter. So you guys need a minute to, or do you have questions about the calendar or? We'll do the budget letter separate from that. Not, have you had a chance to look at the dates a little bit? And do I hear a motion to approve the annual and budget meeting calendars for 26, 27?
I'll make a motion to approve the annual and budget meeting calendars for the 6.
Okay, thanks. Second, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks. Any opposed? And abstentions? Okay. That passes, we go to the letter now. So. Do you all need a second to review it? Or do you want to just dive in here? Bill, do you see yours? It just, it primarily lays out, what, what the year ahead sort of holds for us, what we kind of are, how we're segueing from last year to this year. A little background on the legislative session that I just told you. It's a short session, so it begins late. When the presenters come in, we may not know about, state grants and funds coming in at that point, so that sort of, means that we don't know the whole budget picture when we're hearing the presenters, and that sometimes it makes it challenging. And then in January, people will receive their meeting materials that we talked about. And submission deadlines are roughly 10 days ahead. They're the Monday before the week you present generally, but there's a couple of holidays. Or there's a Monday holiday, President's Day, I think, that we have to work around and give. And the bigger budgets have to wait for their approval by their boards. So a couple of them, Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen, so those dates are adjusted for that. Otherwise, it's the Monday before the presenter presents on Thursday. So again, a lot of that's because of the way our work week works and everything. If we make it a week before, folks don't get it in until later after hours. It doesn't get over to us until the following week anyway, and that slows things down. So I just figured you guys might need a little more time with it. But in general, we had to move it up anyway because of the publication date, so. Any thoughts?
Not real, could be.
That's well written. Is the point.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do.
I added a few details about, what the submission should include, what the packet they get includes, and who they deliver to. Because, people can find it generally, a lot of people are experienced at it, but if you're new, no one really knows what her email is, and that kind of thing. And then what we'll need when we hear from people, not just who the budgeter was speaking for everyone, if other people or another person in the department is more connected to the program part of the operation, they probably want to be there too. Cause there's questions about that too, when we're evaluating spending. It's not just about the dollars, so.
Yeah.
Christina, do you have anything?
No, I think it's good. I think it sets the stage the right way.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to pass the budget letter for dissemination to the budgeters?
I'll make that motion. We disseminate the letter as it stands.
Thank you, Jason.
That's-
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
I'll second.
Thanks, Jason. Well, since I mentioned your name already, don't feel pressed, don't feel
She knew you were
pressed.
guys.
Okay, any discussion further? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you all. We're new business transfer of funds request for future school building committee.
Hi.
Hi,
So because the school building committee is starting its work in the middle of an existing budget year and funds were not specifically set aside in the budgetary process for the school building committee to potentially work with, it's clear that there is no way to get to the point where an application could be submitted in the time period that we would need to leverage the most reimbursement without hiring some professionals to support the school building committee. And as was discussed at the Board of Selectmen's meeting the other night, some of the potential values to having a professional supporting the school building committee, just like the last one, but maybe even more so in this one, is that there's an aggressive schedule. and that we learned a lot about public communication last time, so we have to manage that better this time. And a myriad of other issues that have been discussed in that meeting and in other conversations where leveraging a professional might make the process more effective and allow for improving public interaction even more so in this process. So, having said all that, I met with our finance manager to find out what funds might be available in the current budget that we might set aside for taxpayer approval. And what you see in the motion is a list of capital projects that have been completed and have money still left, balances left in those projects. They have not been closed out yet. A couple of examples there to point out are there were some significant savings in some projects. I believe the last two in the list were fire alarm projects, Center School and Hall School. When the money was originally allocated, I think in CIP for those, there was a total budget of the two schools combined, which was a dollar amount, and that's what was approved. And the school system sought bids, and no surprise, two vendors bid almost exactly to the dollar what the budget was. And in the process at that time, that was before I might have been, I think I might have been on the Board of Finance at the time, but regardless, the superintendent approached me and said, you know, we only got bids from a couple of companies. Do you know anyone in the business who might have missed it, who might be bidders? And I'd like to get another bid because one of these, I think one of them was an off-brand or something like that. So he only had two bids and he, you know, was hoping for three. So we reached back out to companies that were, you know, approved by the state of Connecticut and all that. And we got another bid. That company didn't know what was budgeted. So they bid what was, I guess, a more true bid and did the exact same project, same scope of work successfully for a much lower amount, which is why you see those two large remaining amounts of money. So that's an example of how this money came to be still waiting to be addressed. So again, long story, those funds can be made available. The ask is that this board transfer those funds into another fund, as pointed out in the information, that would collect all those funds in one place. It would close out those other projects and collect the funds in one place. And that's all it would do. It would not approve, it would not take place of the taxpayer's approval or any other process that remains in the budgetary process. It would just put the money all in one place and close those projects. Then I would presume, and I believe you'll concur, that that process would later need to be finished up by possibly a town meeting approval to allow the school building committee to use those funds for the hiring of professionals, et cetera, et cetera. That the school building committee does exist. The first two people were appointed to the school building committee this past Monday night at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. And we anticipate having a list of the remaining candidates from the interview panel over the next 24 hours. And the Board of Selectmen will be appointing more people to the committee, but we do have the legally required minimum school building committee appointed at this point. So, questions?
Lori?
Mike, you know how much, I can't remember, but how much did we have for the school building committee 2.5 years ago? Remember the amount? Was it
If memory serves me right, there was $100,000 allotment, whatever you want to say. I believe that was spent, and I believe we started into the second $100,000. But I can't remember. I don't remember the numbers right off the top of my head. But if memory serves, we spent somewhere in the area of $130-some thousand over the 2+ years that school building committee was in action, and that was mostly design and owner project management support, and some legal and some advertising, and I think a small amount of money was spent like on food for the public sessions to try to encourage participation.
And so just to clarify,
Wait a minute.
we're just collecting this money, closing those projects, collecting this money, but this will have to go before the taxpayers.
My understanding is it would still go back to a town meeting because we're essentially repurposing money within the budget year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
And Mike,
Yes.
if this money weren't used for that purpose, could it potentially be used for other capital needs in town?
Typically, when projects get closed out, with the one caveat, it would depend how they were originally funded. But assuming they were funded from the regular budget or the general fund or standard taxation, when projects are closed out, they historically either the money gets moved to another project that needs it or possibly gets returned to the general fund, in which case then it's available for, basically anything. So yes, it could certainly go to capital projects. And the caveat to that, I believe, would be if the funding had some sort of particular criteria around it, like if it was grant funding or LoCIP funding or things like that, it may have restrictions on what else you could use it for.
I see some of these dates on the projects, they're many years ago, so these balances have just sat up, projects aren't closed all those years.
That is my understanding. I was a little bit surprised when I saw the dates myself. I met with Donna and asked her to look and see what was available. Some of them she did comment on were slow to close because the projects crossed over fiscal years, and some of them were even delayed in getting completed. But I don't know any more detail than that. I was a little surprised at how far they went back.
Christina, do you have any view on this from the CIP standpoint?
No, honestly,
You guys aware of it?
Jim would know better than me at this point, because I know he's looked into all those things, but typically we do try to close out the projects. There's usually some reason that we don't, because people think that the projects are still going to happen, or we're missing a step or something like that. But yeah, I don't, Donna and Jim know more than I do at this point. So.
Other questions or comments on the request? Do you have any view on that, Christina? On the idea of raising the money that way to get started sooner rather than later?
No, I think that's a reasonable way to do it.
Okay. Anyone else? Or, okay. Would anyone like to make the motion, or I can if you? Nope. Okay. There are 5, the background is there are 5 CIP projects in the Capital Projects Fund 03 that have all been completed under budget. These were all 930 projects, capital expenditures that were transferred to Fund 03. So the appropriations would roll until the projects were completed. The projects include the Center School fiber optic cable. That was passed by the BOF in 2020. I'm not gonna give the actual dates, but they're interesting. And then the second one was what?
It's just the other states, but it's a long time.
Yeah, the second one was WPS, Wellington Public Schools in General Security Monitoring System. That was 2019. Well, that was probably appropriate after what happened in the state. And CES upper wing heating was in 2019. And CES fire panel was 2022. And the aforementioned fire panel project at Hull, same thing, done in both schools, was also 2022. So I'd like to move that we move to close out these, the transfer, close out and transfer the balance to a new capital project. 03.3099 fiscal year 2026 SBC. From $5,306.70 from 03.3076 CES fiber optic cable to 03.3099 fiscal year 2026 SBC. Plus $10,350 from 03.3078 WPS security monitoring to 03.3099 fiscal year 2026 SBC. Plus $29,735 from 03.3079 Center School CES upper wing heating to 03.3099 fiscal year 2026 SBC. Plus $12,090.24 from 03.3084 CES fire panel to 03.3099 fiscal year 2026 SBC. Plus last $15,180.05 from 03.3085 HMS fire panel to 03.3099 fiscal year 2026 SBC.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the aforesaid motion, please say aye.
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 I,
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Correspondence, moving on to that. So I included one letter in the packet from James McCoo. And it's really a good recap and a little bit of history peppered in about the facilities that listed as town property, although some of them fit into different areas of ownership because they're not really all owned specifically by the town, or there's shared responsibility for some of them. There's things like that. Included things like our hiking trails and scout halls and the scout hall on the green and the schools and the ball fields and things like that. And what the writer is asking is that we consider a sort of real estate, collecting them as a sort of, asset list. And I'm not gonna go further into it. You guys have read the letter, but I think it's an interesting idea. It's nothing that I can see we'd have time to work on during this isn't to the board, this is to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance and Board of Ed. So it's a kind of upper level idea for the future, but I don't think it's at all, I think it kind of fits under some discussions we've had before about facility managers. There's just a lot to look after. It's all under different guidances and different rule books and frankly, complicated ownerships. So, anyway, so I know it's on the selectmen's desk too, and, just wanted to make sure you brought it to your attention, as I will any correspondence received by me to the Board of Finance. So having said that, present to speak, Pete. Well, it felt like you were the first one to,
Thank you. So,
yeah.
Peter Voltigich, 97 Trask Road. I want to express my strong objection to the action we just took on this so-called pre-transfer, I guess I'll call it, of funds. We have a present building committee, which I'm serving on, actually, the Fire Emergency Services Fire Committee. We requested funds for professional. We went through a normal process. And we received those funds. Our past building committees for all sorts of purposes have had no difficulty in obtaining funds for professional services if they determined that was necessary. We don't even have the committee yet. It's in the process of being appointed. So that's distressing to me by itself. Secondly, I think the townspeople have a reasonable expectation that our Board of Finance has the fiduciary responsibility of protecting the taxpayers' funds. There was no review tonight of what these so-called unexpended capital expenditures were. An example was given of one. How do we know if there are other areas in the budget that do not need to be addressed? Or is this essentially overtaxation of the townspeople? Why was this not known when the budget was being formulated and presented to the townspeople? All of this appears as overreach to me, just as the town meeting call that was presented on this school building committee project, where the first selectman and the Board of Education are attempting to predetermine what a school building committee that hasn't even met yet will or will not do, and I don't agree with that. And I suspect many other townspeople do not as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just address something real quick to that? Or can I do that?
Generally, we don't, but
Okay.
you really feel like there's a clarification. I mean, like a misunderstanding of.
Yeah. Yeah, just because the first, like, just a couple of things. When Mike was talking about it, the first selectman, he said that you said that we don't have the committee yet. We do have the committee. Mike said that in his opening statement about it. So I just wanted to clear that up. You said multiple times that we don't have the committee. It was said that we do.
Madam Chair, point of order. This is present to speak. This is not a conversation. And I don't believe it's appropriate for any member of your board to editorialize what I have said during present to speak or anyone else during present to speak.
I think he was doing it out
You had
of the
your
spirit of maybe
You had your
didn't hear
opportunity during
that
your
point.
discussion of this agenda item. You chose not to include anyone who tried to preserve time.
And now
But now-
we're having the discussion.
But now you
how we run our
elect
meeting.
to comment on anyone who has the temerity to make a comment.
Just for future reference for people to know publicly, the Board of Finance generally does not have discussion from the public per agenda item. There are times when we ask people in the audience who have expertise in a certain area when we're in the budgeting process, and then they helpfully respond when we have a question like that. But otherwise, this board doesn't operate in the way some other boards have chosen to, where people kind of speak during the agenda as the agenda is underway. I'm gonna hear from, who else is up there? Mike?
Hi, Mike McCoo, First Selectman. Yes, commenting on the items discussed tonight. I do hear the concerns from the public about things being done in the public eye and planning things, and that's all of these processes are doing exactly that. It's bringing stuff to public meetings on public agendas to discuss next steps and to put things in place that will ultimately and repeatedly lead to more public input. That is what all of this is for. And I'll leave it at that.
Jim? I'm sorry, Ralph, was your hand up first? I'm sorry.
That's
I-
okay.
it's- It's
Mr.
not up now, but are you, okay,
Mr. Marshall was, his hand was up before mine. Let him go.
okay,
I'll sit
Jim?
back and wait.
Thanks, Rob.
Jim?
Jim Marshall, Fisher Hill Road. Yeah, just I'll be brief. I appreciate the consideration of funding for the school building committee. It's going to be important. The reality is there is a school building committee that's formed. It may not be fully appointed yet, but when it is, it's going to need to move very, very quickly to achieve the best financially possible considerations for the town ahead of June 30th, 2026. And there is years of experience in what the requirements or what the potential cost needs are going to be. The prior committee went through this. And quite frankly, to accomplish its goals in an expeditious manner, it's going to need to access those professional resources relatively quickly, understanding that referendum's going to need to happen, by early June at the latest. It takes a few weeks to advertise and solicit for services. So even if they got started in the new year with the solicitation, you're talking several weeks for solicitation for an OPM service, evaluation of responses, contract negotiations. The reality is, even at the start of the new year, you're probably looking at March before you have professional assistants on board at the committee, which doesn't leave much time for that committee to do its work. That's the maximum you're looking at for that assistance so that we can get the answer, that the committee can get the answers that it needs in time for voters to make a decision before any potential projects cost millions of dollars more. That's the reality where it is. And I think it's good forethought to try to set this up as quickly as possible because we are months behind in where we should be in this process because the forming of the committee got bogged down by election season. So thank you guys for acting on it. And I look forward to and encourage community support so that everybody can work together to get this thing done. So thank you.
Thank you. Ralph?
Sure, Ralph Tillis, Village Hill Road. I understand the sense of expediency that's necessary here. However, if requesting money from the Board of Finance was as easy as it was tonight to get transfers, which are going into a fund not yet designated for school building committee explicitly, it wouldn't have mattered whether we could put the Board of Finance on notice that this transfer would be forthcoming. I didn't see any real emergency that it be done tonight. It could have been done with the SBC's request once it's fully formed. Yes, there are 2 members of the board, the school building committee. The entire committee has yet to be determined. I think it wouldn't have made much difference had we waited until that committee had been complete. So just my comments. I know this is necessary. I don't think we accomplished any appreciable time savings by acting on this transfer request tonight. And that's my thoughts. Thanks.
Okay, I will just point out to the board members, we don't meet officially again until the 3rd week in January, the 3rd Thursday. So that's a month from now. And after that, we begin the budget process 2 weeks later on the 29th. So then it's fast and furious, just to let you know. So there is a gap here of time. And but study up.
If you hadn't done this tonight, you would have had to call another special meeting for it
Exactly.
to add to our already burgeoning list of meetings.
And I don't know, it's hard to convene during the holidays, I know that's for sure, but. Good and welfare, unless, No, you know what? Let's do this before getting welfare. Can you say a few words about yourself, Eric, since you're new to the board and we've,
All right, Eric DeCastro, I live on Holland Turnpike, 375. I've been in the town since 2019. I was a teacher for a decade, then I stopped doing that because farming. You know, I run a farm in Mass as well as my own at home. But otherwise, I don't know how much more.
you run one in town, you mean?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
great, great. Well, it's nice to have you. Eric's the alternate for the Republican Party and appreciate that. Any other comments under good and welfare? Season's greetings.
I just wanna say, I'm gonna be traveling, and so I'll be attending by Zoom, for January, February. And I will try to attend all the meetings, yeah.
Okay. Did you guys have something you wanted to bring up?
No, just enjoying the conversation.
Okay. Wow, really, I could recommend some good shows on TV. No, I'm just kidding. We're on TV. Do you guys wanna just give a basic update about where you are in your negotiations?
That would be you. We have we think we have a tentative agreement, we do have a tentative agreement between the fire department and the firefighters union, which is just the 4 full-time members, the part-timers not part of the union. So we concluded our negotiations yesterday, a couple of very small outstanding issues that pertains to certain language, which we've been going back and forth to finalize. So I fully expect we'll be executing the final document once the firefighters union ratifies their side of it. So my personal goal is to have the whole thing completely wrapped up by Christmas. And based on the conversations today, that's certainly a reality, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. That's for you guys, the 4 full-time firefighters and EMTs. Anything else? Well, without further ado. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
We don't need a motion.
Well, I want a motion. Thank you. We don't have to vote though.
This will be probably one of our shortest meetings.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, probably will
Merry
be.
Christmas, and foreseeable
Don't
future for sure.
Yeah, Eric, fair warning, this is a short one.
Yeah, and I needed it short.